Hey folks,
Okay.
welcome to eCommerce360. Today we have on our show Brian Cottrell. He is the head of emerging channels and US country manager at Nido. Nido is an e-commerce and business management software. Hey Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you
Thank
doing?
you. Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful
I'm
to
good.
Let's kick off this part by getting to know you first. Tell us a bit about yourself, your journey, what brought you to Neto. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I haven't been with Neto too long, just
Mm-hmm.
since August.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been working in the e-commerce space though for almost 15 years.
Wow.
So 12 of those years I was at eBay.
Mm-hmm.
So working there as a business account manager, then up through as a partner manager.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 3 of those years in Sydney, Australia,
Mm-hmm.
which was great, and had a great experience there. And that's where I came across Nido in the partner program at eBay. And this was a new and emerging company that had great integrations and really, really brought a lot to the table
Mm-hmm.
at that time. Um, So yeah, and then we crossed paths again just last year, where Nito was looking to expand into the United States, and I came back on to lead that initiative, and have been there since then. So I also run a online business on the side, just because I'm like, familiar with it,
Oh, that's great.
predominantly on eBay,
Mm-hmm.
but really enjoy it. I've stayed in the space, and yeah, that's kind of my journey to where I am now.
That's very interesting. So we have had Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce. There are like a billion e-commerce storefronts out there. How does Nido differentiate itself from the crowd, especially for the Australian market? And given that you have some sort of an e-commerce background and you have your own store, what do you see in Nido that you don't see in other e-commerce storefronts?
So Neto, first of all, is a very well organized, integrated end-to-end business software solution. So as we differentiate ourselves from some of those other competitors that you mentioned, the core differences are in the integrations that run the business. So where we differentiate ourselves, so the core parts of running an e-commerce business and a business in general, these features are baked into the base of our software. And so while we do have a very robust partner and app environment and ecosystem to help drive new things to the business, the core functions that you need that are critical for a company to grow and to get started, and throughout the whole life cycle with e-commerce, we manage those, we integrate those, we own those integrations, and they're part of that core side. So and it's a less distributed model compared to other competitors, but it's as e-commerce technology has matured, these are the core things that are the basis of what every company needs. And the other really, I think, strong differentiator is that we will a lot of our features are going to help companies as they grow and mature. So a company that comes on early in its life cycle to Nido, you're going to get these systems that are more enterprise level than maybe you would with other starting places. And we're also going to be able to grow quite large with you. So we cut down on the need for further, changes to the infrastructure and system, for further development until it reaches a time where you need a really custom development solution. We understand that life cycle. And where we stay in it. So yeah, I could talk about this all day, as you can tell, but that's really the core of it, is these core functions that are built in. And I should say, like, while we definitely are competitors with places like Shopify and
Mm-hmm.
BigCommerce and others, we're also partners with them. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have a Shopify experience or interface, it's not an either or proposition. So we'll link you with them and as a marketplace and still use our more robust, more integrated solutions to run the business if that's what works for you,
Mhm.
or take the whole thing over to Nido. We can do either.
So it's interesting when you said Nido is built to basically scale, right? So for e-commerce businesses that are looking to scale aggressively, Nido should be their first choice. Also, you mentioned that Nido is all integrated with different marketplaces, even with Shopify or BigCommerce. How do you think Neto solves the challenge of multi-channel selling profitably? It could be quite a pain for e-commerce businesses when they have to sell their items through multiple channels, whereas they have to have a central unified system to actually consolidate all of them. How do you see Neto solving this pain point? Because I came across that Nido solves this beautifully, by integrating. So just let us bit into how well they solve it.
Great question. So I think so. Two things. So one is with scale. So while Nido in the U.S. is still a relatively new market entrant, we are the incumbent leader in Australia, and we
Mhm.
represent about 10% of total addressable e-commerce in the country. And so that scale is key, especially as we own the core experience with our customers. You're getting a pretty wide range of options. The marketplaces are interesting. So while we have those core integrations that are there, we do have a curated kind of partner experience where those integrations expand to beyond the top tier level of integrations and marketplaces. And the profitability side for us is a key that we really focus on because we are a single back-end system that allows a company to integrate to a wide range of marketplaces, but still manage the entire business from a simple interface. And when I
Mhm.
say manage the entire business, I'm talking about everything from warehouse setup, pick, pack, ship, to multiple marketplaces, multiple website integration, all the CRM, post transaction shipping, pick, pack, and delivery, and onto product acquisition, wholesaling, and the B2B side, all from one interface. So by doing that, we save companies a lot of money on these multiple integrations that would normally be required to run all that, multiple systems.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, that's where we really are seeing a lot of our growth right now is in the B2B space, because customers that don't have a great B2B or wholesale experience are getting that from us as a new growth channel. And also, because of our integrations, they're also able to turn on easily a B2C experience that maybe they haven't used before without an additional company to deal with, an additional integration, additional management of their system, all in the one system from us. So yeah, that's I think one of the ways that we help make it more cost effective to be on multiple marketplaces.
So a single source of truth for all integration is what e-commerce businesses can expect out of Nido. So you mentioned about shipping, packaging, and delivery, and I also came across the fact that Nido provides a very strong fulfillment backbone for e-commerce brands. So, in recent years, have you noticed any significant changes as far as fulfillment behavior is concerned? You might know that fulfillment is one of the most challenging aspects for e-commerce businesses. So, have you noticed any significant trends or changes in the fulfillment behavior as far as e-commerce is concerned?
Yeah, quite a bit. So it's one of those, at least as being an old timer that I consider myself in e-commerce, it's one of the things that I have changed probably the quickest,
Mhm.
and it needed to be disrupted, I think.
Yeah.
So we see a lot of, in our core areas, we see a lot of options that are pandemic driven for sure, that
Mhm.
are the different flexible ways to fulfill, whether that's click and connect, whether that's click and use a third party non traditional shipper for fast courier type delivery.
Mhm.
We've also seen, which is not new, but an expansion of services with major marketplaces like eBay and Amazon and others to
Mhm.
enable third party locations and lockers for ClickUp for pickup. Sorry. Um, One of the interesting things though with that is the traditional method of delivery is still far and away the most used by
Yeah.
customers. But these options, while some of them are gaining traction, they are still about having options so that you can deal with your customers in whatever way they choose to. And it's market perception, but what's actual reality is still predominantly a traditional shipping method that's cost effective and that doesn't charge a large premium to get the product, to your customer. I think one of the other things that we've seen as we expand is really having a very wide range of shipping options integrated into the tool. We work up something that we work on constantly. So
Mhm.
making sure that wherever our customers are, whether they're in APAC or the US or Europe, that their local shipping options are integrated into our system, and that in that label printing process that's in tool with us is robust and supports wherever they decide to transact. In addition to these other shipping options that I discussed that are emerging, but are still much smaller in
Yeah.
comparison to traditional.
Yeah, that's an excellent point that you make, that most e-commerce businesses are still opting for traditional method of shipping, which is through
Mhm.
probably popular shipping carriers. Not only that, they're also still adopting the traditional method for tracking and sharing updates as far as order deliveries are concerned. Uh, with customers, although they know that customers panic, they have this buyer anxiety whenever they're placed an order and they do not hear from merchants. Still, they are very slow to
Yeah.
adopt. So what are your thoughts on the post-purchase experience, and do you think retailers are paying enough attention to it?
No, they're not. Not even close.
It's simple
So
answer.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things. So there's good, better, and best. So
Mhm.
good is using, the shipping carrier's experience and not really improving on it. Better is barely minimum amount to really be competitive. But in any space, there's those groups that are far exceeding and
Mhm.
driving.
Mhm.
And I had an experience just recently with a large company in the US that
Mhm.
I bought some items for that I needed for the house, where it was generationally behind what is required to do
Mhm.
business in e-commerce. I thought so, with no further communication, no
Mhm.
refining of my order information, no updated tracking, and really no, from a consumer point of view, no thought that I was front of mind for them or that my experience
Mhm.
mattered. And transition that or compare that to an experience where you're almost being over communicated with. And I think that good, better, best mentality. So the best in class are the companies that are doing that from a good customer experience perspective, but also realizing that these customer touch points are very valuable. So not just from a marketing opportunity, which is key,
Mhm.
but to future cost of acquiring a new customer, like
Right.
retaining a customer,
Mhm.
getting a customer that's coming back and buying multiple items over time, that your true cost to your company to manage your customers better, I'm sorry, your cost savings, I should say, are massive.
Yeah.
And it's a non-traditional way to look at it, but those are the companies that are going to thrive in this really high touch e-commerce environment that we're in right now.
That's great. That's exactly what we are passionate about as well, customer retention and extending the lifetime value that you offer to customers. So, as a wrap up, I know you have been in the e-commerce industry for 20 plus years, and you also mentioned that you have your own store. What do you think, in your opinion, are going to be significant trends that are going to, push the retailers to adopt a more customer retention centric mindset? Also, if you have any other trends that are going to, catch fire really soon, please share it with us and our audience.
Yeah. So the trends are interesting, and I'll have to ask you again that last part of that question. I didn't quite hear that, but as far as from trends, so they've the consolidation in the industry to me is really quite shocking. So I see this in a couple of ways. So there's emerging companies like Pattern and others that have really emerged and become highly valuable in that they get exclusivity in their offering for offering brands to manage their entire e-commerce experience. So that's brand management. It's the legal side. It's all the fulfillment, and it's especially these really high impact e-commerce. So Amazon especially,
Yeah.
where you've got a consolidated marketplace, and the winner in those marketplaces becomes extraordinarily valuable. That's the high volume, something that we just don't see before, and more companies are doing that. But in that consolidation space, it's really about the winning. Your customer touch points are just more important than ever, because e-commerce now is it's no longer a smaller percentage of overall retail, that you kind of need to make sure you've got somebody looking after it in your business, but we'll get to it later. It now is the principal driver. And everyone knows the pandemic has seen that shift, but what we're seeing in our data and our numbers is proving, I think, what you hear, which is the shift, the market share shift during the pandemic to e-commerce is not going back. In fact, we're continuing to see year-over-year growth over last year's numbers, which are pandemic numbers, which were incredible, and that's something that's being shown across the industry too. So yeah, if you're not an e-commerce company with a brand, then you just don't know that you are yet, and you're probably being hurt by not realizing that you already are an e-commerce company. You need to manage your entire company that way. And that's something with Nido that we feel like our tools really sets companies up to do well. And then what was the last part of that question? I apologize.
I was going to ask you about what trends in e-commerce in general are going to be, catching fire soon. Do you have any predictions on that?
Yeah. So if my grumpy old man view of the world shows itself here, and I've gone kicking and screaming, but the social side of e-commerce, just can't be ignored anymore. And there's the social side, I think, that socially we're aware of, but the real business side of this is the explosion in these short-term, extremely high velocity sales opportunities that are trend driven, that are influencer managed, and knowing as a business that you need a system that if you have a spike of a 10,000, 20,000% increase in growth over a short period of time, you have to have that built into your infrastructure so that you don't fall over. And the opportunity there again is I mentioned it before, but it applies to this: the good, better, best. Those that are doing the best at this are really thinking about how their marketing impacts what their customers find important from a social standpoint, from a global standpoint, and that they've got a marketing strategy and product strategy that matches who their customers are. It's a long way of saying, like, it's a trend that's been going for years, where it's less about having a wide range of random products that you can sell because you're good on price. The consumer shift is really more about having this targeted product line that matches your brand message, and that resonates to your clients on a social level. I realize that I don't sound like an expert saying it, but it's such a key thing, and it's something that's moved the market so much in the past 3 years.
Aligning your product line with brand messaging, absolutely. So what does the future of Nido looks like? now that you're here,
Right.
right?
Yeah, so we, as has it been publicly made known, so we've
Okay.
been acquired by
Okay.
Maripost, which
Yeah.
is a marketing automation company in Canada.
Mhm.
Super excited about the opportunities there, and I think there's a lot of tie-ins to who we are and have grown up to be as a company, and the opportunities to build a really exciting integrated suite of products for companies. The launch into the North American US market is coming soon, so we've already building up a partner base and initial customers there, which we're getting extremely positive responses from. And I mentioned this earlier, but especially on the B2B and wholesale side, it's where we
Mhm.
shine
Mhm.
compared to our competitors here, and we're
Mhm.
really excited about that. And then, we continue, Neto as a company globally has always been able to and will continue to grow above the market share of e-commerce growth. And we really anticipate that, continuing. And we're just excited to be expanding more into the US. For me, it means some more normal working hours instead of Australian hours in the US. But yeah, the system is ready for prime time, and we're just excited to bring it to more customers. And the response rates have been great.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. So, on that positive note, we are going to call this episode a wrap. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on our show and spilling some of your time tested strategies and your thoughts on the future of e commerce. Thank you so much.